Hey, what up? What up? You been watching the breaks? This Sway at Real Sway, man. It's getting to really like you guys. Every week we have these conversations. Now, we just recently came from a conversation. We were talking about hip-hop journalism and how it's affected the business and how it's affected the culture over the years. But there's still some really important points that I want to hit off on that I think we should talk to these pioneering journalists. For example, how do you handle beef in hip-hop and journalism? Technology, how social media has affected hip-hop as a culture and as a business. Also, being journalists, sometimes you're sitting around some of your favorite people, but you got to do your job. You got to challenge them in interviews and ask questions that might be, quite frankly, kind of awkward. And then also, what is it that you need to do to become a living legend? All right, man, we got a lot to cover, man. So hold on, man, and follow me. Get a grip as I take you behind the breaks. We're on the 25th block right here in Manhattan. A lot of history took place on this block. Right behind me is where Violated Records was. Right around the corner, you have publications like Double XL, Source Magazine, also Vibe Magazine. Some of the biggest headlines in hip hop came from this block right here. So we're gonna head to the 4040 Club, owned by Jay Z, and take you guys behind the breaks. We didn't know we were asking the questions that everybody wanted to know. We were just, you know what it was. We were just being ourselves, and because we were so immersed in it, it was right on target. It also afforded us to see a whole lot of behind the scenes things. I saw a lot of artists who seemed like they were best friends because they were a group, but behind the mic, I literally had to break them up from fighting. So I'm curious, Kim, did you ever witness that? Like just fights amongst artist crews?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest beefs in hip hop, I can remember like the Nas and Jay Z battle when that was going on. When you have a tape recorder and you're doing an interview, the artist will say one thing. When you turn the tape recorder off, you know, there's like other things that are being said. So artists were very strategic in the way that they told their stories and the way that they were moving back then because they knew what the repercussions were. In every hip hop beef, there was the backstory. There was the stuff that, you know, came out, and then there was the stuff that we knew. And there was the stuff that sometimes we as journalists, which I think is a lot different today, there was the stuff that we didn't want to put out because we felt like we had a responsibility, especially after Pac and Big and what had happened. We felt this weight of, you know, the responsibility of making sure that nothing ever happens like that again, because we understood how important our jobs were after witnessing that.
We obviously want to report the news, but we are not a platform for just anybody to say anything. That's what journalism is about, as opposed to social media.
If it was that explosive without social media, just to hear say and then he say, she say, could you imagine having that platform back then? And now that we're seeing it where Drake and Meek and all of them could just kind of go back and forth like that, does it make it easier because it's out and people can make fun of it and they quells it? Imagine if you didn't have that and they went at each other, would have been a little bit harsher. Because I think the fun of it, of the memes and everything, kind of made it, they're just getting at each other. But if you take that element out, that could have gotten really bad.
In a sense, I think we were like a filter. We were filtering the information. Nowadays, you don't have that anymore. And that's why I think the journalists are, you know, they're competing. They're just putting out whatever because there is no more filter. Nobody cares. Somehow, some way, it's gonna get out there.
And speaking of the Jay Nas beef, Sway, did you do that interview? Yeah. When they sat down together?
We did the first interview, I thought, on TV at least. After Jay did the partnership with Nas, with Def Jam, I was in between contracts with MTV. And like Dan said, who else was gonna do the interview over there? And I said, okay, I'll do it, but let's finish what we started. I thought it was wise for Jay Z to partner up with Nas. And then I also thought it sent a message, a broader message to their followers and lovers of hip hop that conflict resolution is possible if these two could come together and do business together. I remember suggesting to Jay, man, you should sign Nas when you become president of, when he first became president of Def Jam. But I don't think they really talked about what they wanted to say. This is just my opinion because we were going through these questions and they were kind of like, Nobody was really saying anything. And I was like, man, this is a $100,000 shoot. You know, it's a 30-minute show.
Right.
So I stopped the interview. And I pulled him to the side and said, hey, man, maybe you guys are going through this. So I'm like, man, you got to give me something.
Right.
And then Jay said, well, maybe it's your questions.
Sounds like him.
What? What did he just say? So I said, okay. Man, you said his lyrics were garbage, and he's the first person you signed? How do you explain that move? And then, so we start opening it up. And then Nas, you know, people looking at you like, how can you sign to this guy who said all these horrible things about you? That's not a boss move. And then Nas came back, and then the interview got,
That's where it goes.
it started to
you
open up.
challenged them.
And even in the radio show, Sway in the Morning, I tell artists, I'm not here to embarrass you. We could talk about anything you want to talk about. I don't need to get. But if you want to talk about it, here's a responsible way that it can happen, and we're going to do it professionally. Is that a lost principle, art form in today's hip-hop journalism, would you say?
There's so much information now. There's so much content. It's not just the exclusive. It's on every website. It's on everybody's social media. They putting it on the Instagram. You know, artists are telling their own stories. They're not really looking for journalists to tell their stories anymore because they've realized with, you know, technology that they can control the perception that goes out there. So it's about, I think, finding new and creative ways to tell stories from our, you know, from our own platforms. And I think that's what has given rise to the blogger, because the blogger is a personality. It's a snarky, funny, entertaining opinion, and they're entertaining more, I think, than a lot of people in our field.
Then informing.
Yeah.
Informing.
Yep.
There are a few guys, a few women who I think stand out, who I think if we were to say, ask our opinion, who you think is the face of hip-hop journalism today, I would suggest a Rob Markman,
All day.
okay?
All day.
For this generation,
Worked
right?
with him. He was my music editor when I was at Double XL, and I was editor-in-chief. The fact that he was so into hip hop, like just so into it every day, coming into the office with a new idea, you had no choice but to say, like, go ahead with that idea. Just go run with it. And every time he would bang it out, and now to see him at Genius doing what he's doing, he's actually shifting the culture. When he does like these incredible interviews, they go viral. Another one, and everybody could debate what they want, Elliott Wilson, he's still, after 20-something years, he's still doing it. The podcast is crazy. So you got somebody that's been in the game forever, and then you got somebody that's, you know, they're a vet too, but they're also laser focused on today. And you gotta love that balance.
So he challenged you, and to your point, Jay Z challenged me, and I learned from that. And had I not had that experience or others in the past, Hobel Junction, Souls of Mischief, I probably wouldn't have handled the same way. Even like the Kanye interview that went viral, and you know,
Oh my God.
It was a fantastic
You ain't
moment
got the answer,
because
Sway.
Yeah.
You ain't got the answer,
so many
Sway.
different ways to cook that.
But
Classic.
you asked the question that needed to be asked. And the fact that he exploded on that
That was amazing.
says everything that you asked the right question, right? Because also I think Kanye and artists of this era are used to deference.
Yeah.
They're used to that celebrity journalism as opposed to issues journalism. So I was proud to know you.
Oh, well, thank you.
It was perfect. It's like, it'll never go away.
That was a trigger to now.
Right.
If we're looking at him now, that was the trigger, that moment. Because no one had seen him like that in the public,
Right.
out, you know, that crazy.
Right.
We've seen him go out and burst and say, oh, the president, this, that, and the third, but they hadn't seen.
Well, it was because of where he was, right? They'd seen him burst out in front of people that we've all looked at as like not on our side from the hip hop community. Yeah, you're gonna go at George Bush. Yeah, you're gonna get up and go at the Grammys, but you're sitting with Sway. So now, Sway, who's a part of our community, you know what I'm saying, is challenging you, and you see this blow up. And then it just turns into what, internet gold.
Yeah, well,
Mean.
memes. I'm a meme. I'm a meme now. Nah, but
Classic.
that's what every journalist should shoot for, to become a meme.
Hey man, meme is money.
Who's driving? Not.
Phones.
Like moose?
how do you sustain a career in hip hop journalism like I've done? You know what I mean? That's it. No, just kidding. All right.